evening, everybody. This is Mrs. Bloom, and I am reading Artemis Fowl by Eoin Colfer. Sorry I missed last night, some other things came up. But we are in the middle of Chapter 8, entitled Troll. Cudgeon has taken over for Commander Root and let a troll go in the Artemis Fowl home. It has attacked Butler and damaged him quite severely, and so we'll see what's going to happen, because when we last read, the troll was ready to eat Juliet. Holly tucked the hummingbirds close to her torso, dropping into a controlled dive. She skimmed the banisters emerging in the portico below, a stained-glass dome. The time stoplight filtered unnaturally, splitting into thick azure shafts. Light, thought Holly. The helmet high beams worked before. There was no reason why they wouldn't work again. It was too late for the male. He was a bag of broken bones. But the female, she still had seconds left before the troll split her open. Holly spiraled down through the fall light, searching her helmet console for the sonics button. Sonics were generally used on cameras, but in this case it might provide a moment's distraction, enough to get her ground level. The troll was reaching in toward Juliet's underhand. It was a move generally reserved for the defenseless. The claw would curl in below the ribs, rupturing the heart. Minimum damage to the flesh, and no last-minute tension to toughen the meat. Holly activated her sonics, and nothing happened. Not good. Generally, your average troll would be at the very least irritated by the ultra-high-frequency tone, but this particular beast didn't even shake his head. There were a couple of possibilities. One, the helmet was malfunctioning. Two, this troll was deaf as the proverbial post. Unfortunately, Holly had no way of knowing, as the tones were inaudible to fairy ears. Whatever the problem, it forced Holly to adopt a different strategy, one she would not have liked to resort to. Direct contact, all to save a human's life. She'd gone Section 8 without a doubt. Holly jerked the throttle straight from fourth to reverse. Not very good for the gears. She'd get a dressing down from the mechanics for that, in the unlikely event she actually survived this never-ending nightmare. The effect of this gear crunching was to flip her around in midair so that her boot heels were pointed directly at the troll's head. Holly winced. 2 entanglements with the same troll. Unbelievable. Her heels caught the beast square on the crown of its head. At that speed, there was at least half a ton of G-force behind the contact. Only the reinforced ribbing in her suit prevented Holly's leg bones from shattering. Even so, she heard a knee pop. The pain clawed its way to her forehead. Ruined her recovery maneuver, too. Instead of rappelling herself to a safe altitude, Holly crumpled onto the troll's back, becoming instantly entangled in the ropey fur. The troll was suitably annoyed. Not only had something distracted it from dinner, but now that something was nestled in its fur along with the cleaner slugs. The beast straightened, reaching a clawed hand over its own shoulder. The curved nails raked Holly's helmet, scoring parallel grooves in the alloy. Juliet was safe for the moment, but Holly had taken her place on the endangered individuals list. The troll squeezed tighter, somehow securing a grip on the helmet's anti-friction coating, which, according to Foley, was impossible to grip. Serious words would be had. If not in this life, then definitely the next. Captain Short found herself being hoisted aloft to face her old enemy. Holly struggled to concentrate through the pain and confusion. Her leg was swinging like a pendulum, and the troll's breath was breaking over her face in rancid waves. There'd been a plan, hadn't there? Surely she didn't fly down here just to curl up and die. There must have been a strategy. All those years in the academy must have taught her something. Whatever her plan had been, it floated just out of reach, somewhere between pain and shock. Out of reach. The lights, Holly! The voice in her head, probably talking to herself, an out-of-head experience. She must remember to tell Foley about this. Foley? Hit the lights, Holly. If those tusks get to work, you'll be dead before the magic can kick in. Foley? Is that you? Holly may have said this aloud, or she may have just thought it. She wasn't sure. The tunnel high beams! A different voice, not so cuddly. Hit the button now! That's an order! Oops, it was Root. She was falling down on the job again. First Hamburg, then Martina Franca, and now this. Yes, sir, she mumbled, trying to sound professional. Press it! Now, Captain Short! Holly looked the troll straight in its merciless eyes and pressed the button. Very melodramatic, or it would have been, if the lights had worked. Unfortunately for Holly, in her haste she grabbed one of the helmets cannibalized by Artemis Fowl. Hence, no sonics, no filters, and no tunnel beams. The halogen bulbs were still installed, but the wires had come loose during Artemis' investigation. Oh dear, breathed Holly. "Oh dear," barked Root. "What's that supposed to mean?" "The beams are offline," explained Foley. "Oh." Root's voice trailed off. What more was there to say? Holly squinted at the troll. If you didn't know trolls were dumb animals, you'd swear the beast was grinning, standing there with blood dripping down from various chest wounds, grinning. Captain Short didn't like being grinned at. "Laugh this off," she said, and butted the troll with the only weapon available to her, her helmet head. Valiant, undoubtedly, but about as effective as trying to cut down a tree with a feather. Luckily, the ill-advised blow had a side effect. For a split second, two strands of conductor filament connected, sending power flooding to one of the tunnel beams. 400 watts of white light blasted through the troll's crimson eyes, dispatching lightning rods of agony in the brain. "Heh," mumbled Holly, in the second before the troll convulsed involuntarily. Its spasm sent her spinning across the parquet floor, leg jittering along behind her. The wall was approaching at an alarming speed. "Maybe," thought Holly, hopefully, "this will be one of those impacts where you don't feel any pain until later." "No," replied her pessimistic side, "afraid not." She slammed into a Norman narrative tapestry, bringing it tumbling down on top of her. Pain was immediate and overwhelming. "Oof," grunted Foley. "I felt that. Visuals are shot. Pain sensors right off the scale. Your lungs are busted, Captain. We're going to lose you for a while. But don't worry, Holly. Your magic should be kicking in already." Holly felt the blue tingle of magic scurrying to her various injuries. Thank God for acorns. But it was too little too late. The pain was way beyond her threshold. Just before unconsciousness claimed her, Holly's hand flopped from beneath the tapestry. It landed on Butler's arm, touching the bare skin. Amazingly, the human wasn't dead. A dogged pulse forced the blood through the smashed limbs. Heal, thought Holly, and the magic scurried down her fingers. The troll faced a dilemma: which female to eat first. Choices, choices. This decision was not made any easier by the lingering agony buzzing around its shaggy head, or the cluster of bullets lodged in the fatty chest tissue. Eventually it settled on the surface dweller, soft human meat, no dense fairy muscle to chew through. The beast squatted low, tilting the girl's chin with one yellowed talon. The pulsing jugular looped lazily down the length of her neck. The heart or the neck? The troll wondered. The neck. It was closer. It turned the talon sideways so that the edge pressed against the soft human flesh. One sharp swipe, and the girl's own heartbeat would drive the blood from her body. Butler woke up, which was a surprise in itself. He knew immediately that he was alive, because of the searing pain permeating every cubic centimeter of his body. This was not good. Alive he may have been, but considering the fact that his neck was at a 180 twist, he'd never so much as walk the dog again, not to mention rescue his sister. The manservant twiddled his fingers, hurt like heck, but at least there was movement. It was amazing that he had any motor function at all, considering the trauma his spinal column had suffered. His toes seemed all right, too, but that could have been phantom response, given that he couldn't actually see them. The bleeding from his chest wound appeared to have stopped, and he was thinking straight. All in all, he was in much better shape than he had any right to be. What in heaven's name was going on here? Butler noticed something. There were blue sparks dancing along his torso. He must be hallucinating, creating pleasant images to distract himself from the inevitable. A very realistic hallucination, it must be said. The sparks congregated at trauma points, sinking into the skin. Butler shuddered. This was no hallucination. Something extraordinary was happening here. Magical. Magic? That rang a bell in his recently reassembled cranium. Fairy magic. Something was healing his wounds. He twisted his head, wincing at the grate of sliding vertebrae. There was a hand resting on his forearm. Sparks flowed from the slim elfin fingers, intuitively targeting bruises, breaks, or ruptures. There was a lot of injuries to be dealt with, but the tiny sparks handled it all, quickly and effectively, like an army of mystical beavers repairing storm damage. Butler could actually feel his bones knitting and the blood retreating from semi-congealed scabs. His head twisted involuntarily as his vertebrae slid into their niches, and strength returned in a rush as magic reproduced the 3 liters of blood lost through his chest wound. Butler jumped to his feet, actually jumped. He was himself again. No, more than that. He was as strong as he'd ever been, strong enough to have another crack at that beast hunkered over his baby sister. He felt his rejuvenated heart speed up like a stroke of an outboard motor. Calm, Butler told himself. Passion is the enemy of efficiency. But calmer, no, the situation was desperate. The beast had already effectively killed him once, and this time he didn't even have the Sig Sauer. His own skills aside, it would have been nice to have a weapon. Something with a bit of weight to it. His boot clinked on a metallic object. Butler glanced down at the debris strewn in the troll's wake. Perfect. There was nothing but snow on the view screen. "Come on," urged Root. "Hurry up." Foley elbowed past his superior. "Maybe if you didn't insist on blocking all the circuit boards." Root shuffled out of the way grudgingly. In his mind, it was the circuit board's fault for being behind him. The centaur's head disappeared into the access panel. "Anything?" "Nothing, just interference." Root slapped the screen. Not a good idea. First, because there's not one chance in a million that it could actually help. And second, because plasma screens grow extremely hot after prolonged use. "Don't larve it." "Don't touch that screen, by the way." "Oh, ha ha. We have jokes now, do we?" "No, actually. Anything?" Snow settled into recognizable shapes. "That's it. Hold it there. We got a signal." "I've activated the secondary camera. Plain old video, I'm afraid, but it'll have to do." Root didn't comment. He was watching the screen. This must be a movie. It couldn't be real life. "What's going on? Anything interesting?" Root tried to answer, but his soldier's vocabulary just didn't have the superlatives. "What? What is it?" The commander made an attempt. "It's the human. I've never... Oh, forget it. Foley, you're going to have to see this to believe it." Holly watched the entire episode through a gap in the tapestry folds. If she hadn't seen it, she wouldn't have believed it. In fact, it wasn't until she reviewed the video for her report that she was certain the whole thing wasn't a hallucination brought on by a near-death experience. As it was, the video sequence became something of a legend, initially doing the rounds in the amateur home movies cable shows and ending up on the LEP Academy hand-to-hand curriculum. The human, Butler, was strapping on a medieval suit of armor. Incredible as it seemed, he apparently intended to go toe-to-toe with the troll. Holly tried to warn him, tried to make some sound, but the magic hadn't yet reinflated her crushed lungs. Butler closed the visor, hefting a vicious mace. "Now," he grunted through the grill, "I'll show you what happens when someone lays a hand on my sister." The human twirled the mace as though it were a cheerleader's baton, ramming it home between the troll's shoulder blades. A blow like that, while not fatal, certainly distanced the troll from its intended victim. Butler planted his foot just above the creature's haunches and tugged the weapon free. It relinquished its grip with a sticky, sucking sound. He skipped backward, settling into a defensive stance. The troll rounded on him, all 10 talons sliding out to their full extent. Drops of venom glistened from the tip of each tusk. Playtime was over, but there'd be no lightning strike this time. The beast was wary. It had been hurt. This latest attacker would be afforded the same respect as another male of its species. As far as the troll was concerned, his territory was being encroached on, and there was only one way of solving a dispute like this in nature, the same way trolls solved every dispute. "I must warn you," said Butler straight-faced. "I am armed and prepared to use deadly force if necessary." Holly would have groaned if she could. Banter. The human was trying to engage a troll in macho repartee. Then Captain Short realized her mistake. The words weren't important. It was the tone he employed. Calm, soothing, like a trainer with a spooked unicorn. "Step away from the female. Easy now." The troll ballooned its cheeks and howled. "Scare tactics, testing the water." Butler didn't flinch. Yeah, real scary. Now just back out of the door and I won't cut you to little pieces." The troll snorted, miffed by the reaction. Generally, his roar sent whatever creature was facing scurrying down the tunnel. "One step at a time, nice and slow. Easy there, big fella." You could almost see it in the troll's eyes, a flicker of uncertainty. Maybe this human was... And that was when Butler struck. He danced under the tusks, hammering home a devastating uppercut with his medieval weapon. The troll staggered backward, talons flailing wildly, but it was too late. Butler had stepped out of reach, scooting across to the other side of the corridor. The troll lumbered after him, spitting dislodged teeth from pulped gums. Butler sank to his knees, sliding and turning, the polished floor bearing him like an ice skater. He ducked and pirouetted, facing his pursuer. "Guess what I found," he said, raising his 6 Sauer. No chest shots this time. Butler laid in the rest of the automatic's clip in a 10-centimeter diameter between the troll's eyes. Unfortunately for Butler, due to millennia spent butting each other's, trolls have developed a thick ridge of bone covering their brows, so his textbook spread failed to penetrate the skull in spite of the Teflon-coated load. However, 10 devastator slugs can't be ignored by any creature on the planet, and the troll was no exception. The bullets beat a sledgehammer tattoo on its cranium, causing instant concussion. The animal staggered backward, slapping at its own forehead. Butler was after it in a heartbeat, pinning one shaggy foot beneath the mace spikes. The troll was concussed, blinded by blood, and lame. A normal person would have felt a shed of remorse, but not Butler. He'd seen too many men gored by injured animals. Now was a dangerous time. There was no time for mercy. It was time to terminate with extreme prejudice. Holly could only watch helplessly as the human took careful aim and delivered a series of crippling blows to the stricken creature. First he took out the tendons, bringing the troll to its knees. Then he abandoned the mace and went to work with gauntleted hands, perhaps deadlier than the mace had been. The unfortunate troll fought back pathetically, even managing to land a few glancing blows, but they failed to penetrate the antique armor. Meanwhile, Butler toiled like a surgeon. Working on the assumption that the troll and human physiques were basically the same, he rained blow after blow on the dumb creature, reducing it to a heap of quivering fur in so many seconds. It was pitiful to watch, and the manservant wasn't finished yet. He stripped off the bloodied gauntlets, loading a fresh clip into the handgun. "Let's see how much bone you have under your chin." "No!" gasped Holly, with the first breath in her body. "Don't!" Butler ignored her, jamming the barrel beneath the troll's jaw. "Don't do it! You owe me!" Butler paused. Juliet was alive, it was true. Confused, certainly, but alive. He thumbed the hammer on his pistol. Every brain cell in his head screamed for him to pull the trigger. But Juliet was alive. "You owe me, human." Butler sighed. He'd regret this later. "Very well, Captain. The beast lives to fight another day. Lucky for him, I'm in a good mood." Holly made a noise. It was somewhere between a whimper and a chuckle. "Now let's get rid of our hairy friend." Butler rolled the unconscious troll onto an armored trolley, dragging it to the devastated doorway. With a huge heave, he jettisoned the lot into the suspended night. "Don't come back!" he shouted. "Amazing," said Root. "Tell me about it," agreed Foley. And that ends Chapter 8. Chapter 9 we will start tomorrow, and that is called Ace in the Hole.